Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome to another Backfire video. Today, we are talking about the best cartridges for hunting elk. Now, you don't want my opinion, and so I went to somebody who has an insane amount of experience. This person has killed 3,700 elk, and that person is you, at least the combined you. Because I did a survey in the last video and I asked people who are very experienced in elk hunting, you've killed at least 10 elk in your lifetime, to go fill out a survey. And I asked one question of those people. 250 people filled it out from the Backfire audience. And the one question is, what is your favorite elk hunting cartridge? Just one cartridge to shoot elk for the rest of your life. What would it be? And they all answered. I put all the data together and we made a top 10 list from the absolute experts. Many of them are outfitters that have killed, over 100. And so let's learn from the experts the 10 best elk cartridges, counting it down with number 10, this guy. Can you name the cartridge just by looking at it? It has a very unique look. It starts with 30-06, and then the child cartridge there is the 280 Remington. And then somebody in the 1950s named P.O. Ackley took that cartridge, sharpened the shoulder to 40 degrees, blew out the case taper to give it a little bit more space, and it became the 280 Ackley Improved. Right now you'll find factory offerings from Savage, Browning, Weatherby has some, but in higher end rifles, Fierce Christensen, you'll see them as well. 280 Ackley Improved, I feel like I need to call it sir every time. Sir, would you please get in the action and fly downrange and kill that deer? And when you look at the ballistics numbers of a 280 Ackley Improved, I think you'll agree. I want to compare it to the 7 mag because you'll see, even if they're shooting the same bullet, and this is mostly Hornady Precision Hunter, so we can kind of compare apples to apples, all these loads. I did give some of the cartridges more loads so that we could see what it could do at different bullet weights. It's shooting a little bit slower, that same bullet, which means it has 3 foot-pounds less recoil energy, but it still has a long max range. It's effective out clear forever. It has tons of energy for killing elk. It's a really cool cartridge. Up next, counting them down, is number 9. This cartridge was created 93 years before the next cartridge, so 10, 9, 8, 7. So I'm going to reveal number 7 as well. Number 7 on these experts list was the 6.5 PRC. Let's look at the 6.5 PRC. Hang on a little bit and we'll get back to number 9. The 6.5 PRC is incredible, and the reason it's gaining so much popularity, is everywhere in stores right now, is because of the ballistics. It's incredible. You look at the drop and wind drift at 400 yards, and you're seeing whatever 7 inches less drop at 400 yards than your 308. That's a pretty big deal. A lot less wind drift, 6 inches less wind drift at 400 yards. That's just going to increase your chances of making a shot on an elk. So 6.5 PRC is popular for a good reason, but 93 years before the 6.5 PRC, we had a cartridge that matches the 6.5 PRC's ballistics numbers almost to the T. It's almost perfect. And so people who are crazy about 6.5 PRC, sometimes I think, we've been able to accomplish those exact same numbers for a long time. And what is it? So what is number 9 on this list? It's the 270 Winchester. Let's look at 270 Winchester versus 6.5 PRC. At least in this load, the bullet weights are 2 grains apart. And the velocities are within 10 feet per second of each other. And so different calibers, 277 versus 264, and that's really all. Just differences in the BC of the bullets. About the same energy, very similar max ranges. The recoil is less on a 270 Winchester. And so I like the 270 because it's a lighter recoiling cartridge that's still pretty flat shooting. It's not at all overpowered for deer, but it's also capable of killing elk. Now, some people knock on the 270 saying it's a little bit light for elk. I'm not so sure I agree. As long as you're shooting with a good bullet in a correct range where it's capable, I think it's an awesome cartridge and pretty darn similar to that 6.5 PRC. Okay, this is mind-blowing to me, okay? I asked these experts not what was your furthest shot ever on an elk. What I wanted to know was what's normal. And so I said to each one of the 250, what was your most recent elk that you killed? How far was that shot? And the results are pretty cool. It looks like there's some inflation in how far people are shooting these days. And speaking of inflation, you may have also noticed some inflation in the value of your dollar. That's why I'm grateful to today's video sponsor, Lear Capital, who's helping people to invest in gold and silver in order to protect the money that you have earned to provide for your family. Investing in gold and silver is kind of cool because you have something physical that you can hold on to, and it's proven to be a good store of value and can even appreciate over time. But Lear Capital has been in business over 25 years, has a stellar reputation in the industry, and when you call the number below or go to learbackfire.com, in fact, at learbackfire.com, they have an investor guide that's really cool because it can kind of walk you through everything you need to know if you're just getting started in this. One thing I didn't know is that you can take your traditional IRA that you have and you can invest in physical gold with that IRA that you already have. When you call in, ask how you can get up to $15,000 bonus gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's learbackfire.com. Okay, so I mentioned the inflation in how far people are shooting. You guys, this was very surprising to me. Now, I'm not making any judgment on, what's too far to shoot. Everybody's going to say a different number about what's too far. I'm just interested in what they said, because these are the guys that are killing the most elk, right? These are extremely successful elk hunters. I want to know how far they're really needing to shoot in order to accomplish how many elk they're shooting. So when you look at the shots within 100 yards, that's only 12% of elk. And then shots within 200 yards, that only adds another 19%. Now, depending on the terrain you shoot, sometimes that's the max you're going to. It's thick trees, and that's really all the shot you're going to have. But look at the rest of these numbers. A lot of these are being shot at very extended ranges. In fact, so if you had 3,700 opportunities where these guys killed elk, if you wanted to be able to shoot in 90% of those opportunities, you would need to be able to take a 700-yard shot. That's far. I don't know if there are any conditions where I would feel comfortable taking a 700-yard shot personally. And I mean, I'm shooting 3 times a week and shooting thousands of rounds a year. 700-yard shot is hard, but also I think a lot of people don't realize how rare it is for a cartridge to actually be able to be lethal at 700 yards. Look at these numbers. And this time I'm going to rank them by maximum range. And so we're taking 2,000 feet per second. Say once a bullet drops under that, it may not expand quite as much. That's what a lot of bullet manufacturers recommend. So the 28 Nosler's got it beat. It can go past 700 yards. The 7 PRC's got it beat. That's it. None of these cartridges are capable of maintaining 2,000 feet per second out to 700 yards, except for those two. Some are very, very close. But if you wanted to maintain that 2,000 feet per second, it's rare that a cartridge can even do that, and even more rare for a shooter to be able to do that. So that is number 9, 28 Nosler. It's one that is going to get you with a little bit of inflation shooting distance and your pocketbook, because it is expensive to shoot. I used to have one, and it's a lot of recoil, but it is flat shooting, and a 28 Nosler kills spectacularly. Took it to Africa once. Up next is one that people would throw a tantrum if I didn't have on the list. Again, this isn't my list, it's the experts. Do you recognize this? It's probably the most popular hunting cartridge ever. That is the 30-06 Springfield. 30-06 is an excellent choice for everything. 30 caliber just tends to kill a little bit differently, has enough horsepower to get you out at a little bit longer ranges. But for some shooters today, they might say that the 30-06 still is a little bit shy on range. So at least in this load with the Hornady Precision Hunter, the maximum effective range would be 480 yards, which that's really far. That's a far shot. That's going to be good for a lot of people, would be for me. But if you are one of those taking further shots, it runs out of gas a little bit sooner. The recoil is reasonable for what it can do. It's ubiquitous. It's in guns everywhere. 30-06 is an awesome choice. Next is overkill. This is where you want an elk dead right now, and that is the 300 PRC. 300 PRC is a relatively new cartridge. Now, this was designed for competition, for shooting out at very extended ranges, you know, a mile. And one of the design goals with this cartridge was not just having the ballistics to shoot flat enough out to extended ranges like a mile, but also being able to shoot heavy enough bullets at that range that you can even tell when it hits the target. It can be very difficult at those extended ranges. You're looking through a spotting scope. Did it maybe make the plate wobble a little bit? Did I maybe see a little splash? And so it wants to hit with authority even on targets. Now, the problem with 300 PRC is that it is a magnum action length. It's a long, tall cartridge. And because of that, it just doesn't fit in a lot of the common mass-produced rifles. And so you'll see a lot of them and you're like, when are they going to come out with 300 PRC? Maybe not ever, if it didn't fit in the action that those rifle makers are using. But they wanted a no-compromise solution for target shooting, really, and it has great application in elk hunting. But the problem with the 300 PRC is the recoil. You'll see if you're used to a 308, has 15 foot-pounds of recoil energy. Well, the 300 PRC has more than double that recoil energy, 34.7 foot-pounds. It is a thumper, absolutely. But honestly, if you put a muzzle brake on it, it's not that big of a deal. Emily shot one in a video a little while ago, and she didn't think it was a big deal with the muzzle brake on. So
I'm a little nervous.
You usually don't ask to shoot. This is different for you.
Well, you've gotten all these cool guns. I thought I might as well. And now I just pull the trigger. Oh my gosh.
Next is a cartridge that I was very surprised to see so high on this list. Now again, these are not your everyday shooters. These are pretty intense elk hunters. And so they're picking maybe a little bit more exotic of cartridges. But that is this guy. You recognize that? That's a short action. This is the 300 WSM. Basically, a 300 WSM is just a short action 300 Win Mag. Now, the numbers I have here maybe aren't the best comparison because it's using a 200 grain bullet, and so it makes it look a little bit slow here compared to a 178 in a 300 Win Mag. But really, when you look at the load manuals and everything, 300 WSM and 300 Win Mag, they're going to do the same things ballistically, same velocities. They're so close in powder capacity. Just you get it in a short action cartridge. I don't own a 300 WSM, and it is very, 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 very high on my list of next cartridges to get. I like a short action because it usually gives you maybe 2 inches less barrel life with the same ballistics, because we just have a little bit bigger of a cylinder here to be burning powder in to begin with, and so usually get a little bit better performance, all else is equal. Moving up to number 3 now, the top 3 most popular elk hunting cartridges among the absolute experts. 7PRC. 7PRC is a brand new cartridge. Ballistically, it's absolutely incredible. It's just slightly less powder capacity actually than a 7 mag, but it has the twist rate to give you the ability to shoot some longer, heavier bullets than a 7 mag, and because of that, you end up getting better ballistics overall than a 7 mag if we're taking advantage of those higher BC bullets. What surprised me though is that a cartridge that's 1 year old could leap to number 3 on this list. That is really impressive. I'm excited about 7PRC, one of my favorite cartridges, but I'm impressed how quickly it has taken off. Number 2 and number 1, what do you think they are? Most of you have probably guessed that of which 2 it would be. I just had the order wrong in how they would come up. But number 2 is the 7 Rim Mag. 7 Rim Mag's awesome cartridge. It does so well being flat shooting because it's a 7mm. 7mm, the ballistics just work better. And then number 1, the 300 Win Mag. 300 Win Mag is awesome because you can load so many different bullet weights in it to make it a very dramatically different cartridge. And if you get a load that is similar, I mean, look at 300 Win Mag versus 7 PRC in these bullet weights, and you say, oh, like the ballistics you can accomplish in a 300 Win Mag compared to the new hotness, the 7 PRC. Now, there's going to be a revolt on this video because in the top 10 list, the experts did not put a 308 Winchester. That is a travesty to not have a 308 Winchester on that list. There's always been a little bit of a debate about using 308 on elk. When I look at the numbers though, I don't really see how that could be the case. Here are 3 different loads of 308, and you see them compared to a 6.5 PRC or whatever, a 30-06, and honestly, it's very capable. The problem is the max range. If you're wanting to take the extended shots, and I think very few shooters really can do it, then okay, the 308 probably isn't your guy. You know, max range here is around 400 yards. It's going to drop below 2,000 feet per second. But if you're not that guy anyway, then the 308 can be an awesome choice. You're shooting a bigger 308 caliber bullet. If you choose a good bullet, I think it's absolutely effective at reasonable ranges. Now, bullets is the last thing that I asked these guys. What bullet would you recommend for hunting elk? Hornady ELDX was their top. Now, that could be a little bit swayed here because the ELDX opens even at very extended ranges, and quite a few of these guys are taking long shots. Barnes TTSX, that's a copper bullet, deep penetrator. If you are going to take, a kid out, wife out that needs very light recoil, or you got a shoulder problem, and you are going to use a Creedmoor, that wouldn't be my first choice, but if you are, keep it to shorter ranges and put in a copper bullet. And if you're within whatever 200, 300 yards, and you're using a copper bullet that's going to get that deep penetration, and you're taking nice broadside shots, I don't see any reason why that would not be lethal. You may not have a huge margin for error because you're not getting that ripping, tearing that happens just with raw speed, but I think if you put it in the right spot, it should do the job. Then the Nosler AccuBond, that's a bonded bullet. The jacket is welded to the core inside, and so it stays together and penetrates very well. Nosler Partition is kind of an older design, kind of has a little H shape in there so that you can get part of it that opens up easily and part of it that penetrates. It's not known for being, the most accurate high BC bullet by today's standards, but it is very effective at opening up. And I was surprised to see coming in at number 5, the Berger EOL. Now, normally I would have expected to see maybe a Berger VLD hunting or something like that. The EOLs are the extremely heavy for caliber bullets, and I think the reason that's here is because of the popularity of the 7 PRC and the 6.5 PRC that both have common loads. That 156 Berger EOL is very, very common, and that's probably what propped it up here. Hey, thanks to our experts for giving their information here, and thanks for watching a Backfire video. See you in the next one.